All nations must come together to ensure that this rogue regime cannot threaten the world with its nuclear weapons.
I really applaud Trump because when he talked about the two Koreas, he was the first American president to say on one side people are dying, death, destruction.
It was the worst mass shooting at a place of worship in American history. And we find inspiration and hope in those Texas heroes.
This Sunday, November the 12th, to be a day of prayer across the entire state of Texas as we unite as one state.
You know what I wanted to do? I wanted to go over to the Pentagon. I didn't want to go back to the DNC. I wanted somebody to put yellow tape around the DNC. I was scared. We were under attack.
I think you're seeing with the Donna Brazile revelations really the beginning of the civil war in the Democratic Party.
These were last night, after all. We'll talk more about that coming up. But good morning to you. You're watching Fox and Friends First on this Thursday morning. I'm Rob Schmidt, and today for Heather Childers. Straight to our top story breaking overnight. Cut off North Korea. That is the stern message from President Trump to his Chinese counterpart. The president warning the world time is running out. Griff Jenkins live in our nation's capital with new details on Mr. Trump's firm stance in this department. Hey, Griff.
Good morning, Rob. The president and first lady are en route right now to a state dinner in the Great Hall of the People in Beijing after 2 days of meetings and tough talks that have focused on North Korea and trade and business. Now, after announcing agreements worth more than $250 billion for products including U.S.-made jets, auto parts, natural gas, and beef, President Trump criticized the one-sided and unfair trade relationship between the U.S. and China, blaming past administrations for allowing President Xi Jinping to take advantage of the U.S.
I don't blame China. Who can blame a country for being able to take advantage of another country for the benefit of its citizens? I give China great credit.
But the much focus was on the two leaders talking about confronting North Korea's nuclear weapons program, thanking President Xi for his cooperation and calling on China to do more to stop the escalating crisis.
The United States is committed to the complete and permanent denuclearization of North Korea. So important. China can fix this problem easily and quickly. And I am calling on China and your great president to hopefully work on it very hard.
Such cooperation would include China's fully implementing the UN Security Council resolutions on North Korea, as well as sanctions. And tomorrow, the president heads to Vietnam, where he has indicated that he intends to come face-to-face with Vladimir Putin on the sidelines of a APEC conference. Although we're just getting news now, we'll have more on this. Secretary of State Tillerson already in Vietnam ahead of the president's arrival, speaking with the press a few hours ago, walking back that meeting, saying that such a meeting, Rob, was still under consideration, that it would need some substance to make it worth happening. We're tracking all the developments as they happen across the world.
Oh, wow. So, okay, so the Trump-Putin meeting may or may not happen at this point. Well, we're going to analyze it if it does happen coming up here in just a little bit. But, Griff, thank you so much. All right, throughout his campaign, President Trump very critical of China and what he calls their unfair trade deals with the U.S. and the trade deficit that we have with the country. But Fox News politics editor Chris Stirewalt says the president's effort to forge a better relationship with the Chinese government is paying off for the American people.
The president has a much tougher job in Beijing than he did in Seoul. In Seoul, South Korea needs us, wants us, loves us, and all of that. In Beijing, the president has a problem. His campaign promises were predicated on essentially a trade war with China, getting very, very tough, very, very hard on China, pushing back hard on China. But, of course, the reality of the world is we need their money, their product, and we need their help on North Korea. So the president has had to choose a different tack as it relates to dealing with China, and he has, shall we say, I think the term in Washington we say has grown in office. He's definitely grown in office as it relates to China because the situation is probably more complex than he initially understood.
Other news now, a Benghazi militant charged with helping terrorists pull off the deadly 2012 attack will appear in court today. Mustafa al-Imam is charged with conspiracy to provide support and resources resulting in death. Al-Imam could face life in prison if convicted. The suspected ringleader of the attacks, Ahmed Abu Khatala, is also on trial on terrorist charges. 4 Americans, of course, killed in that attack, including Ambassador Chris Stevens. All right, more incredible video this morning showing Major League Baseball former pitcher Roy Halladay's final flight. Witnesses say that the two-time Cy Young winner was showboating minutes before crashing in about 4 feet of water right off the Florida coast, saying he was getting very close to the water doing some tricks in that sport plane. Video from TMZ Sports showing him flying just a few feet right above the water, as you see there. The plane is known as the sports car with wings. There have been 3 crashes involving this aircraft since April. The plane's lead designer was killed in one of those crashes, the person that designed that plane. All right, First Baptist Church of Sutherland Springs, Texas, set to resume services this week after that deadly shooting that killed 26 people during a worship service last Sunday. This as Vice President Mike Pence meeting with first responders and church members. Pence claiming that the Air Force would complete an internal review within days after it failed to report the gunman's criminal record to a federal database that would have kept him from buying the gun which was used.
It was a crime that the assailant was ever able to purchase a firearm in the first place. He lied on his application, had a history of mental illness, and there were bureaucratic failures.
Well, there certainly were. We now know all the victims of that tragic shooting. Here are their photos here. 8 of them were children, the oldest just 16, 11 people still recovering in the hospital. All right, Senate Democrats going full steam ahead, introducing a major gun control bill. The legislation would make it illegal to sell and manufacture more than 200 different types of semi-automatic weapons. Automatic weapons already banned in this country. It would also ban the sale of bump stocks like the one used in the Las Vegas massacre to make a semi-automatic weapon an automatic weapon, and also expand background checks as well. The bill is not expected to be voted on in the Republican-controlled Congress. The head of Fusion GPS, the company behind the infamous Trump dossier, will take the stand in front of the House Intelligence Committee. Co-founder Glenn Simpson's attorney announcing he has agreed to testify. The committee says a subpoena against Simpson will be dropped Tuesday when he appears. Simpson has been in a legal battle about testifying after it was learned that the dossier was funded by the DNC. And while all eyes are on President Trump in China, Senate Republicans are busy working on his tax reform bill back here in the States, trying to get that passed by the end of the year, by Christmas, actually. Today, the Senate will unveil a rewritten version of the House bill. It's expected to not fully repeal the estate tax, eliminate the state and local tax deduction, and have corporate tax cuts phase in or expire. So they're trying to soften that bill just a little bit. All right, country music's biggest night, starting off somber, but quickly turning political. Hosts Brad Paisley and Carrie Underwood once again taking aim at President Trump. Carly Shimkus with Fox News Headlines 24/7, Sirius XM 115 is here with the this year's CMA's Can't Miss Moments. I heard one song about maybe next time he'll think before he tweets, which is actually kind of a funny.
We'll get to that in just a minute.
Yeah,
You're absolutely right. There was no shortage of entertaining moments, and it was one of the most political and emotional shows in years as well. The 51st Annual Country Music Association Awards at the Bridgestone Arena in Nashville, kicking off on a heartbreaking note.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound.
The somber start meant to honor the victims of the recent tragedies impacting America recently. None hitting the country music world harder than the shooting at the Route 91 Harvest Music Festival in Las Vegas that claimed 58 lives.
Earnestly, tenderly, Jesus is called.
But the show quickly segued into politics when hosts Brad Paisley and Carrie Underwood took the stage.
Now, Brad, I don't know if you've heard about this, but the CMA has given us some guidelines with specific topics to avoid. So we can't be doing any of our silly little songs because this year's show is a politics-free zone.
Are you kidding me? That's not fair. Hold on, so we can't even do like, well, way down yonder on on the Scaramucci. That doesn't work?
No. No Scaramucci, Brad. No.
What about, like, well, she's gone, gone, gone.
No.
Gone, gone, gone.
Uh-uh.
Oh, no, she wrote a memoir. Hillary's back. Can't do it?
Creative, but no.
Oh, well, the duo then performing a President Trump-inspired version of Underwood's hit, Before He Cheats.
Kofi.
Kofi!
Kofefi?
Kofifi?
Kofefi.
Kofifi.
Feffy.
Fifi.
Feff.
Gesundheit.
Thank you. And it's fun to watch, yeah, that's for sure, till little Rocket Man starts a nuclear war, and then maybe next time
he'll think
before he tweets.
Well, that's the moment everyone's going to be talking about today, right? But as for the awards, you know what the show was really about. Entertainer of the Year went to a country superstar, Garth Brooks, Miranda Lambert taking home Female Vocalist of the Year, and one of the biggest winners of the night, Chris Stapleton, who won both Male Vocalist of the Year and Album of the Year. So sentimental, a little political, but Rob, mostly the show was about entertaining the fans.
And Garth Brooks still wins awards after all these years. Amazing.
Absolutely, I know.
Carly, thanks so much.
Thanks a lot.
All right, 12 minutes after the hour now, President Trump and Vladimir Putin, what can we expect if they come face to face in Vietnam? Why our next guest says it's time for President Trump to put some pressure on the Russian leader. Also under fire for getting an illegal immigrant arrested, the police chief who's now under investigation for enforcing the law. We'll tell you about that. And grab the tissues. Liberals not done crying about the 2016 election just yet. How they marked the one-year anniversary by screaming very, very loud. But before we go to the break, here's Tim McGraw and Faith Hill performing The Rest of Our Lives at last night's CMAs.
If you love your friends.
All right, welcome back. Following his day of critical meetings in Beijing, China, President Trump prepares for one of the most highly anticipated possible sit-downs of his Asia trip. And that would be with Vladimir Putin at the Asian Pacific Summit, which will happen in the nation of Vietnam. North Korea remains at the top of the agenda, really the point of this trip in a lot of ways. But what else can the president hope to accomplish in that meeting with the president of Russia? Here to weigh in is former CIA analyst and expert on the North Korean nuclear program, Fred Fleitz. Thank you so much, Fred, for coming on this morning. Good morning to you. And the first thing we want to kind of pull up here is a statement from Secretary Tillerson that there was never an agreement to meet. If the two leaders are going to meet, if there's something sufficiently substantive to talk about that would warrant a formal meeting, there has been no conclusion made on that. So this morning we kind of learned that a meeting that we thought was most likely going to happen may or may not happen. But let's assume it will. What do you think will come from that? What's the big purpose on our end of meeting with Vladimir Putin?
Well, I think there'll be a meeting at least on the sidelines, but Russia's efforts maybe to downplay or get out of this meeting reflects a strange comment we heard from Putin in September when we were calling on Putin to increase the pressure on North Korea after the possible hydrogen bomb test. He said, "President Trump is not my bride, and I am not his bride or groom." Now, what that meant is Putin resents being pushed around by President Trump on North Korea, and he doesn't like the fact that the United States is trying to get its way by pushing a U.S.-led global order and by placing sanctions on nations to get its way. And I actually think that this resentment by Putin is a good thing. He realizes that President Trump is not a pushover.
He certainly does, and I think that you believe that he will respect, somebody with a bit more fortitude than the previous administration, somebody like President Trump that doesn't like to get pushed around either. Am I crazy to think that Russia is not really the biggest way to stop North Korea from developing this weapon? It doesn't come. I mean, can Russia really prevent that? I figure it's more of China's problem, isn't it?
Well, we've seen since China actually has begun to increase the pressure on North Korea that Russia is throwing North Korea a lifeline. And this is a big problem because we can't let North Korea have a way to get around the sanctions. I don't know that sanctions will work, but Russia may be working against our interests right now by giving North Korea an out. And also, Russia sees an opportunity. If China's pulling out of North Korea, Russia's going to go in. And there's been competition between the two states for influence in North Korea for decades.
What could Russia possibly want out of North Korea other than, I guess, coal? What is it that they're interested in? It's a small nation. It's not particularly wealthy at this point.
Well, it's a question of influence. If the Kim Jong-un government was to go away, Russia would lose a lot of influence in the region. And Russia does not like sanctions. It is under sanctions from the U.S. It doesn't like that. And frankly, I think they relate to the North Koreans because of our sanctions against North Korea.
Very interesting. Okay, and we know that Vladimir Putin likes to stir the pot anyways, just to make things interesting. So we'll see how he responds to all of this and see how that meeting, if it happens, how it goes. Fred, thank you so much for coming on this morning. We do appreciate it.
Good to be here.
All right. 19 minutes after the hour now, wind farm fury, the plan to put windmills right on a war battlefield. We'll explain that. And the daggers come out after former DNC chair Donna Brazile reveals just how much power the Clintons have over the Democratic Party.
We lost an election last year. Many people thought we were going to win. And so I did a forensic examination of what we did wrong and what we could do better.
How Democrats are reacting to her tell-all book on the DNC's dirty secret. She was on Tucker last night. First, here's Brad Paisley and Kane Brown performing Heaven South at last night's CMAs. There we go! Polls on Tuesday, President Trump thanking the people who put him in the White House on the anniversary of a very historic win. The commander-in-chief tweeting congratulations to all the deplorables and the millions of people who gave us a massive electoral college landslide victory. Don Jr. also tweeting these never-before-seen photos of the then president-elect taking Hillary Clinton's call to concede. You see right there, Don Jr. saying, these are, quote, personal photos I took of Donald Trump taking the call that ended it all 1 year ago today, which was yesterday. All right, Kellyanne Conway also looking back on that historic night, telling our Laura Ingram that it was Americans that came through for the president.
I just want history to show that it was Donald Trump that connected with people, and he was able to take issues that were really very arcane to lots of folks, like trade and immigration, and convert them into top shelf issues that he's still fighting for now. He has a 70-point immigration plan as president. He's renegotiating these imbalanced, unfair trade deals so that they work more for the American worker. But he flipped counties that President Obama had carried twice. He flipped states that President Obama had carried twice. And those who still will not accept the election results, those who neither expected him to win or wanted him to win, I feel they've wasted a whole year in not getting to know why he won.
And Kellyanne Conway was the first woman to ever run a successful presidential campaign. All right, 3 U.S. aircraft carriers will show rivals our Navy's unmatched power as President Trump visits China. The USS Nimitz, Ronald Reagan, and Theodore Roosevelt will carry out drills in the Pacific Ocean in an apparent message to North Korea. This will be the first time 3 carrier strike groups have exercised together in about 10 years. Terror in the air. New report claiming that terrorists support Iran's largest airline. An Iranian opposition group reporting that the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, Behar Air, the group is currently under U.S. sanctions for terrorism, and the planes are allegedly used to transport troops and weapons. The U.S. government is considering blocking a deal between Boeing to build airlines for Behar Air, which has the support of terror groups in the Middle East. All right, new concerns over reports of plans to build a wind farm on the site of a World War I battlefield in France. An estimated 10,000 Australians died and were buried in Bulcourt, that's in northern France. Not too far from Normandy, it appears. Australians often travel there to pay their respects. The Australian government says it will be raising the matter with the French authorities to protect the graves of its fallen soldiers. All right, 26 minutes after the hour now on a Fox News alert. Sloppy security for the skies, weapons, even explosives missed by airport officials. The shocking new report coming up. Plus, apparently Democrats should be thanking Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden for their election wins this week, I should say, as new polls show the party approval for the Democratic Party is at the lowest it has been in years. Why our next guest, a former speechwriter under President George W. Bush, says Democrats only have themselves to blame for that low number. But before we go to the break, here's Miranda Lambert performing To Learn Her at last night's CMAs. All right, back with a Fox News alert. The TSA is failing to detect dangerous weapons or explosives at airport security checkpoints. The disturbing report as terrorists set their sights at blowing up more airplanes. Now, the security flaws outlined by Homeland Security and the TSA at a House Homeland Security briefing. The exact rate of failure is unknown. Lawmakers now calling for tighter security. There have been a lot of lapses in TSA over the years. An urgent manhunt intensifying for 3 escaped inmates, Matt White, Jeff Strong, and Dylan Ferguson, removing a wall speaker from Tennessee's Macon County Jail and crawling through the hole, lowering themselves into a maintenance room with bed sheets. 20-year-old Ferguson is considered armed and dangerous and has been charged with homicide. Police believe inmates may have stolen a truck to help make this grand escape. Senator Rand Paul's injuries worse than we originally thought. Paul tweeting an alleged attack from a neighbor left him with 6 broken ribs, not 5. Meanwhile, neighbors are slamming claims that Rene Boucher attacked Paul over bad landscaping. Several said that Paul keeps his lawn tidy, and they don't know why Rand Paul was tackled in that incident. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell says Paul will return to Congress next week and fight through the pain. A shocking new report claims veterans are the most vulnerable to scams. According to AARP Fraud Watch Network, the AARP Fraud Watch Network, veterans are twice as likely to be scammed by cons through emails or phone calls. It says scammers typically look to steal military records and pretend to be veterans before making an offer. All right, a hero's medals from World War II accidentally donated to Goodwill have now been returned.
So on behalf of Goodwill,
wow,
we wanted to make it look nice.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
That's fantastic. The veteran's widow didn't realize his service medals, including his Purple Heart, were in that box. The Illinois Goodwill store did some digging to find them and gave them back to her in a special decorative case. That is a great story. All right, former DNC chair Donna Brazile taking her tour, slamming her own party right here last night on Fox News.
Tucker, after I received my FBI briefing in August, do you know what I wanted to do? I wanted to go over to the Pentagon. I didn't want to go back to the DNC. I wanted somebody to put yellow tape around the DNC. We lost an election last year. Many people thought we were going to win. And so I did a forensic examination of what we did wrong and what we could do better. And everyone who has said, Donna is making money, well, first of all, that's a good thing because Donna got a lot of mouths to feed. But people are just questioning why Donna would write her book, because Donna likes to write.
All right, there you have it. Here now to react, former speechwriter under President George W. Bush, Jennifer Grossman. Jennifer, thanks so much for coming on this morning.
Thank you.
This is very interesting what's happening with Donna Brazile right now. I didn't see this coming. I don't think a lot of people did, but this book is going to make a lot of enemies on her side of the fence.
Yeah, I don't expect she'll be getting any Christmas cards from the Clintons anytime soon, but burning quite a few bridges.
Absolutely. What do you make of the allegations here? I mean, it's a lot. And saying that, I mean, she alleges, I guess, sexism within the Democratic Party and the ranks that were running the Clinton campaign. I thought that was kind of shocking, especially with a woman running for president.
Well, you know, the Clinton campaign and the Clinton machine is still defined by the principles and values of Bill Clinton, who, of course, was one of the worst sex harassers of all time. But, you know, I thought it was very indicative of this cancer that you have at the heart, not just of the Democratic Party, but at the heart of both parties, which is why also we saw that new poll that came out that showed both parties are in disrepute. Vast majorities of the American people have negative views of both parties.
And we're going to get to that poll here in just a second, but kind of sticking to the book here for just 1 second. I mean, do these allegations, I mean, it just paints a picture that's really bad. Why would Donna Brazile write this book other than, do you think it's just to make money? I can't understand why she would just bury her party like that and make it look so bad if she is a true Democrat.
Well, hopefully she's a true American before she's a true Democrat.
And she wants to kind of inspire change here.
Yeah, I mean, I think at some point in your career, you've got to be looking at who are your true friends, what do you really stand for?
Yeah.
I mean, personalities and parties will always disappoint, but principles never do. And I think that, she's also, as I am, from Louisiana. Some of the best Democrats come out of Louisiana. Yeah. And I think if you can be a Democrat and win and convince people in Louisiana, then you really are in touch with that populist pulse of the party.
A moderate red state Democrat.
Right.
Yeah, I can understand that.
The other thing is, I don't think she needs to be writing this book to make money. She's got Oprah. She's had her column in Oprah for a long time. So she'll, she may lose some old friends, but I think people will respect someone who comes forward and stands up for the truth.
And explain how in the world they lost that election, which we still can't really figure out with the advantages that they had. Let's talk about the DNC here getting hacked, presumably by Russia, not handing over their service to the FBI. I guess the excuse is that they had to still run the campaign. They didn't want to lose their computers, right? Is that essentially what it was?
Well, that, I've got to say, it was a great interview, but that one, she danced around the entire night and wouldn't give a straight answer. So, yeah, I mean, obviously, if you really were concerned about hacking, why wouldn't you hand the computers over? So I think there is a little bit of double talk on that.
And they maybe were afraid of what else was in those computers, maybe something like that. There could be, you could allege something like that. Okay.
Historical problems with servers and turning servers over.
That's right.
That's why Hillary decided to use her own email.
That's a good point. And one last thing, I mean, we do want to talk real quick about this poll that came out. The Democratic Party, worst numbers I think they've ever seen. Unfavorable 50 or 25 years. Only 37% find them favorable. Not good numbers, but I guess nobody got good numbers in this poll.
No, they were pretty bad for the Democrats in terms of how far they dropped. But you go and you read the rest of the study, and then you saw that the Republicans had an unfavorable rating even higher. So, when you have majorities of both the Democrats and the Republicans hating their own party, that is kind of a bad thing. But I think there's also a silver lining to it, because I don't know, maybe there's a set of beliefs or principles or even a party out there that might be consistently more for limited government and lower taxes and personal freedom across the board.
I see where you're going
Just saying, I don't know.
I've always liked the independent candidates. All right. Thank you so much for coming on this morning, Jennifer. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, 37 minutes after the hour and under fire for getting an illegal immigrant arrested. The police chief who's now under investigation for enforcing the law. Plus, as country music stars get political, a message of unity from one performer.
It has never been more important than it is right now that we all come together, find some common ground, spend some time listening to each other, and realizing that we are more alike than we are not alike.
Nice to hear some common sense from Hollywood. Social media loving it. Carly Shimkus is back next with Reaction Online. But first here...